John, and I do believe he's got his hand raised. I think he's going to join us and ask his question live.
Okay, a couple things. One is we're getting deals, but we've done every kind of marketing under the sun, from cold calling to SMS to direct mail to TV commercials to whatever. And it seems like there's like SMS, for instance, so many people are doing it now that I'm not really, I mean, we had 66,000 SMSs last month, and we only had 121 that were even halfway, motivated to sell. And what I'm getting all the time is people just saying, make me an offer, and then you call them and whatever, you can't get through to the owners. And then with phones, it seems like maybe with cell phones, so many people now are screening their calls, they're not answering. I'm wondering what do you guys think is the best bang for buck on average for picking up leads?
In general, I would say direct mail. I can tell you, actually, a lot of people are getting away from the text. That would be a big concern for me. And I know I don't personally, I'll get, an email here and there, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. But as soon as someone starts texting me on my cell phone, man, I'm ticked.
What about calls?
Calls are okay. Let me just kind of keep it general. It's hard to understand exactly what you're sending out, but more importantly, what are we saying? Because if somebody comes to me and says, well, why don't you just make me an offer? I'll turn it around and say, well, I'd love to make you an offer, but I can't make an offer on a property that I haven't seen. It just doesn't make any sense.
That's almost verbatim what I say, but I can't even get to that point, because if it's on the phone, I'm like, well, I'm not going to just make you an offer without seeing the property. Is there time we can get it? And usually it's click.
Well, they're just not motivated to sell.
Yeah.
So we have to move on. I would say the majority of deals that I'm seeing happening right now through the people I know is most of it's direct mail. It's because it's not that immediate in your face text or phone call.
Right.
And it's kind of, some people weren't even thinking about selling until you sent them a postcard that said, hey, I'm looking to buy. Right. And then people start going, maybe we need to get rid of that property, but you may never hear from that person for a couple of months. And I think that's kind of the trick.
It's tough because in my market, I mean, I know from my rental properties I get 15 a month from different people. And so if that many is going out to lots of people, it's just, it's like you get lost in the shuffle. The other piece to that is, how much are you having to spend on direct mail? Are you talking about giant campaigns, like $20,000 campaigns to
what kind of properties are you looking to buy? Do you want a distressed rehab or long-time rental? Or are you doing more creative financing? What kind are you doing?
We kind of do all the above. The primarily distressed, with the intention of either hoteling it or rehabbing it and selling it retail.
Right. So you're going in and making sure that these properties have a lot of equity.
Yes.
So from a creative finance, I would actually put less equity, because not many investors actually market houses that have little equity. And sometimes those properties could actually be turned. It'd be a smaller profit, but it'll open up a new audience. Let me say that.
How small of equity are you talking about?
Like less, 30%.
Yeah.
So less than that.
Yeah. Okay.
So we have people that do 500 postcards a month. We have people that do 5,000 postcards a month. I also would look at, what postcard you're actually sending. And if something's not working, maybe we need to change a headline. Are we doing a follow-up marketing campaign to that? So if I send a direct mail piece today, we may follow up with a phone call, just say, hey, sent you some material, just looking to buy a house, blah, blah, blah. Is there a follow-up campaign to that? Lead generation is the number one thing for any investor. Without the house, there's nothing, right? So I always say we should be spending 90% of our time finding the deal. It's
Right.
not the buyer, it's not this or that. It's actually just
Right.
finding the deal, and depending on where you live, price points that you're looking at. There's a lot of variables that we're not for sure of. But if I was giving you an answer here, I think direct mail is going to be your most affordable and have a larger impact because it's not in your face. The text messaging, I would personally stay away from because it's just going to get even stricter rules out there. I'm not sure what state you're in, but I know Florida's got some major restrictions on this now. But direct mail to me is going to be the key thing, but understanding, what are we sending out? And also create, I always say with marketing, if you haven't gone through the edge, what I would tell everybody, this is exactly what they need to do, because so many people don't understand even how to write marketing. And I put together, if you go under this marketing tab, how to write killer content. We created this formula of exactly how do you write a headline, understanding why we're writing that particular headline, giving you tons of examples as well. And then how do we create benefits and how do we create pains in our marketing? And a lot of people, they need to hear the pain side of what's going on before it changes their mind of saying, yeah, you know what, you're right. I do need to do something with this, but also how do you separate yourself from all the competition? Right. So because if, that same seller's getting another call from other people, they're hearing the same thing and they're just like, yeah, I'm tired of the call. Just make me an offer. And again, that's why I like going with the direct mail side, but we have to be creative and be a little bit different in how we do that. So, without understanding the exact market, what your budget is, what things you're currently sending out versus how we're responding to people, I would just kind of take a look at that side of it. But just keep in mind, good Lordy, I've heard a lot more no's than yeses in my lifetime. And it's part of the unfortunate part of the process, but it's the yeses that is where you do really well. I would encourage every single person to go through this video, go through this training. So keep at it, John. Keep at it, buddy. I hear you. Lead generation is always like, we got to find deals. That's how we keep doing what we keep doing. So, But thanks for bringing that up.
All right. Next question is from Michael. Michael, are you able to ask it live? I'll turn it on. If not, I'll ask it for you.
Yeah, I can ask the question. I guess I'm just looking for better ways to market, and I'm wondering if you guys think texting is a good solution, and if so, what ones would you suggest to take the data from skip tracing and put it into?
As a company, we have stayed away from texting. Could we provide you the capability and integrate it with our skip trace results reports where you could auto text this out? Absolutely, we could. We were reading the laws around that. I know it started tightening up, back when I was in Georgia, but now here in Florida, it's even more strict. And what we're finding is if you don't specifically have permission to send a text message directly to that person's cell phone, then it's more or less illegal. And so we have chosen as a company not to open up auto texting directly from the platform just to protect you guys. There is, I can't remember exactly what it is, but it could be, I think, $10,000 or $15,000 per occurrence penalty. I know there's a lot of people doing it. I know there's a lot of platforms out there. I reached out to some of those platforms, discussed it with them. We wanted to do something actually for REIPro actually. And so, we have stuff that we want to market. And when I reached out to them, they had to provide a whole use case. Well, why are you sending this text message to people? Are these your customers? Do you have permission to do so? There was this whole security onboarding process that we had to go through. And just by going through that, you have to have a reason to send a text to somebody. So I typically discourage texting for that reason. I know a lot of people that do it, but from our platform, we don't do it. Now, could you export our list and go to a third party and do it yourself? Sure, you could do that. And then the onus is on you, as far as how you meet all the guidelines is whether or not you can or can't do that. Does that answer your question, Michael?
Yeah, I think it does. Is calling kind of the same thing or a little bit less stringent, would you say?
Well, calling's one of those, because, we pull back the cell phone numbers. And I remember I was doing a deal. I called a guy, he was walking through the airport. And I was saying, hey, I want to talk to you about your house over here, 123 Main Street and all this stuff. And then, of course, he said, well, I'm in the airport. Can I call you back? And then when he called me back, he's just, so, well, first off, how'd you get my number? And I said, well, as a
Your
professional
ex-wife.
investor, blah, 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 it's all public information for the most part. I said, but let me ask you a question. Do you want to sell that house, so to speak? And I kind of redirected the question. Generally, when you're calling to talk to somebody about their situation or their house, you're not really trying to sell them anything. Like, I'm not trying to sell a product to you, which is, we all get annoying if it's a life insurance, or God forbid we get these text messages and phone calls about my car's insurance. It's not that same type of thing. You're actually trying to look at buying something from somebody. So I look at phone calls as a little bit different. I'm not trying to solicit information like that. I'm trying to either help them out of their situation, or I'm trying to buy something from them, not sell something to them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And here's the deal with the whole text message. If I pick up my phone and I happen to know your cell phone number, and I send you a direct text from my personal cell phone to your personal cell phone, that's me as a person consciously typing the message. That may just be a gray line there, but where you really get into trouble is these auto dialers. And that's where the FCC and the laws around the Consumer Protection Act really kick in, is you're using an automated platform to auto send out massive amounts of text messages. And that's where I think the laws are really pretty clear that you can't do that. So when you're placing a phone call to somebody as well, it's you picking up the phone. You're not auto dialing, you're calling them. So I don't think a lot of that stuff really applies at that point.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right,
Yeah,
thanks
just
for asking that question.
my 2 cents on hey, look, we can find an easier way to do something. Let's go do it. The problem is, a lot of people get really frustrated when they get spammed on their phone, especially text messages. So we're kind of setting that wrong, impression right from the beginning, because they're going to be, how'd you get my number? What are you talking about? Stop texting me. I don't know who you are. And that's where you run into issues. But, I think we're all looking for unique, better ways to market. We just got to get creative. We have to, unfortunately, follow the rules, and they change the rules all the time. It seems like, they've changed the rules over the last 20 years of several different things that we do. It's just, who moved the cheese? We just got to go find that better way. The other issue, Bo, that a lot of people may not know about the texting thing is there are companies in our space that actually do it. And if they do allow it, I would surely be reading the fine print in those disclosures when you sign up, because
Right.
you got to protect yourself.
Yeah, because as a company, from a technical standpoint, we could offer it and just say, here, blast it out and do it. And, of course, we would have to put in our fine print of our terms and conditions that you understand that auto texting features, blah, 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 blah. The onus is on you to follow the laws, whatever. So it's one of those. I would suggest you read the Consumer Protection Act when it deals with texting and those types of things, so that you're clear as to what you can and can't do.
Yeah. Good question, though.
All right, let's see. Shanita, are you able to talk and ask your question?
Yes. Hi, good morning.
How are you?
Hello.
I'm good. So I have REIPro, of course, but I'm looking through and I was interested on thoughts on purchasing off-market land to possibly like build and hold it. But it's kind of hard to compare after repair values and stuff, if it's just land. So I'm trying to figure out, is that something is that a good strategy or maybe not? I don't know.
I don't know if there's a bad strategy. Obviously they're doing a lot of building in some areas, and some areas they're not. If I see, development happening, then I think that would be a great time to, hey, let's just jump in, maybe find some lots and so forth, or even, acreage of land. Obviously, you can find that here in REIPro,
Mm-hmm.
but you look at the flip side to this now. You put a house or buy, or not a house, but land under contract, or you even potentially buy the land.
Mm-hmm.
You may be sitting on that land for years before you'd actually realize any kind of, profit. Usually, if I look at land is one of the easiest things to sell or finance. I mean, you could get massive acres under seller finance and hope that, everything's kind of moving that way. If it's more from a lot point of view, you really got to dive into these, outlying neighborhood areas where there potentially could be growth. Also be looking for any new commercial development coming in, such as a new grocery store or something like that. So you really need to be, stay in tune with it, because even the lot beside me, when I moved here, I could have bought it for 250 grand, just the lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then a year and a half later, it sold for 450. I mean, you just don't know sometimes, right? So I think it's, it's one of those strategies that I wouldn't necessarily expect a return tomorrow, but it could be something that could pay out, because, I always say this, they don't make any more land. So, at some point, that land's going to be occupied. It's just timing with land. And again, depending on your area too, where you live, what's happening around that area. Do you see new construction? Do you see things happening? Do you see new commercial coming in? Do you see new schools being built? And that's usually a good sign.
Okay. Thank you.